Shalom, shalom. This is the brother Kadar Bond of Mississippi GMS Gulf Coast. I'd like to start by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rahak Kadash. Double honors are given unto the apostle elders of Great Millstone, men who have labored and suffered in this truth for over 30 plus years, making their lives and their bodies a living sacrifice. I'd also like to send a shalom to the hopeful elect, 1/3 of the nation of Israel, the various GMS camps, heads of those camps, and also to any of you Akim, not named GMS, but walking one body, one spirit in Yahweh Shai, diligently out on the highways and hedges, as commanded of us, Luke 14:23. To you all, shalom. Lord willing, this be not too long. But at the same time, Lord willing, it'd be somewhat edifying. Maybe if you hear this through the Spirit, you can gain something from this, Lord willing. Anyway, I can get straight to the point. As you see right here, it says poking the panda. The United States of America, which is known in the scriptures as Babylon the Great, is coming to an end. I mean, this is sounding redundant, but it is what it is, It is what it is. And them trying to be a bully, a world police, pushing their wicked democracy throughout the whole planet Earth, seems as though it's just about played itself out. And these other nations are getting about fed up with that. We know Russia's up in the northern sea, up there, the Barents Sea, setting up antennas and radio frequency jamming equipment. And along the border of Ukraine, the same thing. They're down there showing force, military might, because guess what? United States of America is down there arming the Ukrainians. Now, given the past history of this place, and this place is 230, maybe 240 years young, it's very young in comparison to the ancient civilizations that came before it, and it's already at its end. It didn't last no time. But in that little short span of time, this place has amassed the whole world against it. At one point in time, everybody was on team with this place because everybody could line their pockets with this place. But all that's coming to an end. And the world leaders themselves can see that. They don't want no more parts of this place. As a matter of fact, they're trying to break ties. And to do so, with an economic stronghold, who has had an economic stronghold on the whole planet, then you have to fight. And that's basically what it's boiling down to. Now you got Australia and the U.S. Trying to boot up in the South China Sea down there and back Taiwan, which is a province of China. The British, they was in there years back. But, like I say, all the strongholds of the so-called white man, everybody's breaking their ties with them. And countries like China and Russia, they actually have the military might, the strength to do so. Unlike Iran, Saddam Hussein, and Libya, Muammar Gaddafi, they wasn't quite strong enough. But this is prophecy being played out. And this place called America, it's going to get erased. Just like you made a mistake on a piece of paper with a number 2 pencil, you erase it. And that's just what the Lord is about to do with this place. He's going to use China and Russia to do so. So if any of you Edomites, so-called white folks, may flip across this, hey, so be it. It is what it is. From the information that this video is going to give us, you're going to understand the pump and the proud nature of this so-called white man. And whether he's an Aussie or a Brit or an American or a European, he's all the same. He's a damn white man, so-called. But enough talk. Let's let the video play.
The message coming out of China is getting louder by the day. It doesn't like other countries, especially Australia, ganging up and meddling in its affairs. As we know, Beijing is currently doing its best to punish us economically, but in the last few days, President Xi Jinping has also ratcheted up the rhetoric by warning of the perils of a new Cold War. A loose translation is, if we don't stop poking the panda, we'll face serious consequences. Now, it's worth taking that threat seriously because Xi controls the largest military force in the world, and as one of his supporters cautions tonight, the cost of conflict with China could be Armageddon. Is the prospect as terrifying as it is unthinkable? A military showdown between two nuclear-armed superpowers, the United States and China. A conflict that could reshape the world order. Is Australia vulnerable at the moment?
Australia is monstrously vulnerable at the moment. We have this naive faith that American military power is infinite, and it's not.
Naive. You know, you're naive when you're young to a lot of things, you understand? Because you think you know better. But these are military people. This is a general here for Australia. And he's speaking truth. He said they are naive, thinking that the American military might is forever. You know, but sadly, that's not the case. Let me restate that. So gladly, that's not the case. Yes, so gladly, that is not the case. America is going down, along with the rest of you crony white people.
Tonight, leading minds on the looming war with China.
It's going to be waged on an economic front. It's going to be waged on a social affairs front. They're going to come at us all ways.
How likely is it? How prepared are we? And at what cost for us and the world?
Use all your imagination. Think about all the nightmares you can think of. And what will happen will be 10 times more than your worst nightmare. You are talking about the possibility of Armageddon.
Did he say Armageddon?
And the world.
Use all your imagination. Think about all the nightmares you can think of. And what will happen will be 10 times more than your worst nightmare. You are talking about the possibility of Armageddon.
Yes, he did. He said Armageddon. All this is biblical. It's all written in the scriptures. But like I said, I'm just going to speak on what I can speak on, what I am discerned in, what I understand. But through the Spirit, I felt as though I should do this video. So, like I said, Lord willing, to be somewhat edifying to the ears of any of you who may hear it. Having said that, I'm going to try not to be too disruptive of the video.
Taipei is a modern metropolis, capital of Taiwan, an island half the size of Tasmania, yet home to a population just about the same as all of Australia. The trigger point for conflict with China, if it comes, is right here. Why do you think people in Australia should care about what's happening in Taiwan right now?
Because we are a democracy, and democracy do not survive in isolation.
Now, I just want to slack you for that, for stopping the video again. He said that so candidly, so a matter of fact. We are a democracy. Those people were not dealing with democracy over there in China and that side of the world. Those were mostly communist powers, socialists. They had nothing to do with this democracy. See, that's that filth. That's that wine that they've been sipping from America. Soaking up their philosophy, their way of thinking. You understand what I'm saying? Shit, up until the turn of the century, of the 60s, I believe. What it was, the 60s or latter 60s, round about the end of the 50s up to about the 70s. They were still dressing in garbs of their forefathers. Those suit and ties and whatnot, that's just something here in the past 50 years or so. So they just started drinking this wine. They just starting to soak up this man's philosophy. Ain't lasted a good 5 or 6 decades, and they ready to turn up the United States upside down, bowl them over like a sandcastle built in the sand. Just push it over. They're ready to do away with this, and that's why they upset with their comrades in Taiwan, Hong Kong. You've been infiltrated by this white man, and you think you think like him, you act like him. You know, this is prophecy. You know, because these people think they got necks. They don't have necks. You know, but look at the poison that this society, that this white man has spread throughout the planet. You got these people talking about democracy. If you leave this white man to his own devices, he'll be all out in Mars and the moons of Pluto spreading democracy, where people can do what they want to do, you know. Do as thou wilt. I digress.
Xin-Cheng Zhao is an entrepreneur who runs a tech startup in Taipei. In recent months, he's grown increasingly nervous about China's growing threats to reunify with Taiwan by force, if necessary. What is it particularly about Chinese rule that you're scared of?
Number one is losing all your freedoms, right? Because Taiwan has been enjoying, our democracy and our liberties, our freedoms for the past few decades. And it is just unimaginable that, we would be reunified with the authoritarian regime and then...
Listen to this madness, this damn man speaking now. You hear this? He listen to him. He's speaking to his buddy right there across the camera right there. See that Edomite, that white boy right there? And we would lose our freedoms and this and that and the third. If you go to Taiwan or Taipan, wherever he at right now, I guarantee you they're under authoritarian rule right now. Very up on a democracy. They got CV axle restrictions right now. Although it don't look like, because they out there bustling and walking around the streets and whatnot, they all going to have to adhere to Revelations chapter 13, verses 15 on down. So you can dress and act like these people. You understand? See, this is what that poison's done to you when they drink of the wine or the fornication of this place. That's what it does to you. And our people are drunk with this. So-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, they are drunk with this. Anyway, let me stop. Let me let the video play, because I don't want to get it all off point now. So I'm gonna just drag it back a few seconds rather, and I'm gonna let it play.
All your freedoms, right? Because Taiwan has been enjoying, our democracy and our liberties, our freedoms for the past few decades. And it is just unimaginable that, we would be reunified with the authoritarian regime and then surrender such freedoms. So, no, it's not an option.
For Zhao and many other Taiwanese, the crackdown on democracy in nearby Hong Kong is a warning of what may be to come.
They lost their basic right to vote, to elect their officials, to speak their minds, to protest. Hong Kong people just live under fear every single day. So we all hope that it doesn't come to this, right? Because Taiwanese would have to fight. And although we spend heavily on military equipment, we are no match for the second largest army in the world.
China is increasingly vocal about bringing what it views as a renegade province to heel, stepping up its warnings to the rest of the world not to meddle in its business.
请坐下。谁妄想这样干？
Anyone who dares try to do that will have their heads bashed bloody against the Great Wall of Steel, forged by over 1.4 billion Chinese people.
President Xi Jinping's hard line at the 100th anniversary of the Chinese Communist Party in July was followed by a record number of Chinese fighter planes breaching Taiwanese airspace, more than 150 incursions over just a 4-day period. The question is, if China does make a move on Taiwan, will the US respond? Right now, the answer seems to be yes.
I just want to make China understand that we are not going to step back. We are not going to change any of our views.
So are you saying that the United States would come to Taiwan's defense if China attacked?
Yes, we have a commitment to do that.
Those who want...
You have a commitment. You hear this devil. You hear these... We got a commitment to that. Yeah, with his hands in his pocket and whatnot. You hear this? And then that entrepreneur, he was sitting out there just... He couldn't say that with a straight face. Yeah, it's going to be a change in those lands. You understand? The Lord is making everything. He's twisting and turning everything to work out the way he had already had it written out anyway. Anyway, let me let it play. So it's like...
to block China's unification with China's Taiwan will be doomed to failure.
Victor Gao is an expert in Chinese affairs and an unofficial mouthpiece for the regime in Beijing. Vice President of the Center for China and Globalization think tank, he's a former diplomat who was the interpreter for Communist leader Deng Xiaoping. If the US does intervene in Taiwan and Australia supports them, what will happen to Australia?
Listen, if Australia goes to fight together with the US soldiers in China's drive for reunification between China's mainland and China's Taiwan, then you are talking about the worst thing you can dream of. A war between China and the United States will soon escalate out of control, and that will be Armageddon, Armageddon, and Armageddon. And
he said that 3 times, so that's understanding.
This is what I hope the Australian people will come to realize, that you need to deal with China with respect as much as you give to the United States.
The story is extraordinary, especially if it's true. And it all...
Through simulated invasions, China has been showing off the military might it could unleash if Taiwan puts up a fight. At the sprawling Zuraha training base in Inner Mongolia, troops are schooled in street-to-street combat in a mock Taipei. As you can see from these satellite images and from these photos, there's even a building with an extraordinary resemblance to Taiwan's presidential headquarters. It's all designed to send a message. We are armed, we are ready, and we can make a move whenever we want.
Let the Chinese people do their mission. Let China's mainland unite with Taiwan, and that will make the Chinese, the Americans, the Australians, and mankind as a whole happier and safer.
You said Australia should show China more respect, but it sounds to me like you want Australia to kneel down before China and fear them.
Absolutely not. I think China probably at the heart is a country of pandas. Do you really want to fear a panda? Do you think a kangaroo will fear a panda? Probably not. A panda probably will run away in front of a leg-kicking kangaroo.
This is what we will get all the time from, as people say, the panda huggers. I believe that the Chinese Communist Party's aim is to be dominant in this region and perhaps dominant in the world. And this is a zero-sum game. It must remove America from the Western Pacific in order to be dominant in this region. Simple as that.
If you have a handle on the strategic perils of the Taiwan issue, quite like Australia's former Major General, Jim Molan. A lot of experts are looking in the crystal ball at the moment, trying to figure out if and when there would be war over Taiwan. When do you think this is likely to all play out?
Fundamentally, given the power that they have now in their military, they could act any time from now on. And that's what frightens me more than anything.
So So if a move on Taiwan does happen, how's it likely to play out? Jim Molan believes there are three likely possibilities.
The first scenario is what I call the incremental model. China places a blockade around Taiwan, a no-sail, no-fly blockade, says to Taiwan, okay, well, you can happily go bankrupt Taiwan, and let's see what the Americans do. Now, the Chinese can back off if the Americans come through with overwhelming force, which I don't believe they can. But until then, China may be able to achieve its aim without fighting. The second scenario is a sudden attack, a Pearl Harbor type attack, to take out all the American bases in Japan, in South Korea and in Guam. And then they turn around and say to Taiwan, well, what do you reckon, Taiwan? Do you want to be destroyed by us? The third model is to do them both.
The second China starts targeting US military assets, surely then it's a very slippery slope towards all-out nuclear war.
No, I don't believe that's the case. America would be foolish, even though it may have suffered a tactical defeat, to use nuclear weapons because it would start losing American cities.
It's a terrifying prospect, the two biggest powers in the world going toe-to-toe. But as you'll see, there are strong reasons to believe war is not as likely as some might think. A quarry on the northern outskirts of Melbourne seems an unlikely testing ground for the weapons of tomorrow. But here, a war game in miniature is underway.
3, 2, 1.
Defentex is a Victorian company developing autonomous drones for the battlefield. It's headed up by Travis Reddy, who believes these diminutive weapons could be a critical part of Australia's arsenal.
It's cheap, it's expendable, and can group together in a mass or a swarm so that we can have this big impact in the battlefield.
How much are your developments made for the sole purpose of helping a country with a small defence force like Australia take on a big force like China?
That's ultimately the reason that we exist.
Each tiny flying machine can carry a powerful payload.
It could be a smoke round, an anti-tank round, an anti-personnel round, a radio retransmission system.
But their real strength comes when they swarm in huge numbers. If you end up getting hundreds or thousands of these drones working together at one time, what can they actually achieve?
Yeah, they can have a devastating effect.
It's early days yet, but increasingly cheap autonomous drones are being viewed as a key to modern warfare, particularly for nations like Australia.
We're a very small country. We have a very small defence force. So we have to maximise the impact that every individual soldier can have.
So this could be a big tactical advantage for the little guy.
100%.
And I want to thank that fellow down under. Thank you very much, pal. Appreciate it, Mr. Prime Minister.
Right now, of course, Australia's focus is on the much bigger military hardware that'll result from the AUKUS Pact. It'll be a couple of decades yet before the cementing of the relationship with our two most trusted allies results in shiny new nuclear submarines. Former Major General Jim Molan fears that's far too late.
It's excellent to have something out there in the future, 10, 20 years away. The question I've got is, what are we going to do for the next war? And the next war is not going to be 10 or 20 years away. It's going to be in the next 3 to 10 years. My estimate is, in a serious fight, the Australian Defence Force only has enough missiles for days. This is not going to be resolved in days. And of course, we're not big enough. We should expand the Defence Force significantly.
It's a pretty bleak picture you paint. It sounds like we're stuffed.
I don't think being stuffed is a strategic word that I've used very often, but it's not bad. We should fund defence now based on our assessment of the national security strategy, which is based on the war that we want to win.
In short, you think Australia needs to prepare for war tomorrow?
Absolutely.
One thing is clear, while Australia's new subs will be nuclear powered, they won't be carrying nuclear warheads. But veteran Communist Party loyalist Victor Gao says Australia has already crossed the nuclear line.
I would say the AUKUS deal in itself, by enabling Australia to build nuclear submarines, will have one big consequence for Australia. That is, Australia will no longer enjoy the benefit and the very rare privilege of not being targeted with nuclear weapons going forward.
I think you're comparing oranges and apples there. Australia is doing a deal for nuclear-powered subs. They're not getting nuclear weapons. Why should Australia then be a target of nuclear weapons?
Listen to me. The tubes in a submarine can be armed with both nuclear warheads and conventional warheads. Now, in the heat of a battle or in the heat of a war, do you think Australia will allow inspection as to what kind of warhead you put into that big tube? I can bet you, in the heat of battle, no one will pause, and the safe approach is to target Australia as a nuclear-armed country.
Senior figures in China have said that because...
Anyway, them damn Chinamen are not fooled. Like he's sitting up there talking about, they just buying nuclear subs. They not, yeah. See, Esau, he think he's so slick, he can outsmart everybody, you understand? But see, China ain't going for none of that. Them slant-eyed coops, they are not going for any of that. Slocky. Those Chinamen are not going for any of that, you understand? So, scratch that, Esau. You know what I'm saying? His smooth talking ass. Your time's up. Anyway, let me grab a few scripts. Let's it's time for war now. It's time for war. It's time for all that talking and whatnot. That you seen that spokesman for China, he's sitting up there speaking a matter of fact. He ain't sitting up there like trying to be polite and nothing. He said, listen to me. He's talking a matter of fact. None of that old yassa boss type of talk. He ain't talking like that. You can see his demeanor. Anyway, let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 3. And it reads, right, check this out. I just stated it's time to go to war now. It says right here in Ecclesiastes 3, and I'm going to start at verse 1. It reads, to everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under the sun. Let's read that one more time. It says, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heavens. Like, yes, indeed. Now we're going to jump straight to the verse that I want to read. Verse 8, and it says, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. So now, having read verse 8, how do you think the love is across the planet? China and the Australians, they don't seem to be expressing love to, and we're talking about nations like China said they was over 1.4 billion people. That's a lot of people. In Australia, I believe they have a population a little over 24 million, 25 million people. That's a lot of people, 1.4 billion, 25 million. And they don't love one another. What time do you think it is? Think it's time for peace? I think not. China has got her affairs in order. Just like in the Second World War, when the United States were trying to get those bombs together, they was extending olive branches, Let's sit down and talk. Let's sit down and talk. The moment they got them bombs tested and online, they sent to the Japanese a declaration of surrender. Wasn't no let's sit down and talk no more. See, the Chinese, they have learned the lessons. They have sat back and watched. They come up out of those sweatshops, because they the sweatshop of the United States, of the whole world, rather. Now they have weapons. They're not only just making tennis shoes and cell phones. They're making warships and bombs. So the time of talking is over with. And you slick talking, smooth tongue, split tongue devils, you so-called white folks, you're not going to be able to talk yourself up out of this one. Because ultimately the Lord is pulling the strings. Yes, indeed, he's pulling the strings. Now, real quick, like I said, I'm just going to touch on things that I'm familiar with in the spirit. This is Matthew's, and this is the Lord, Yahweh Shah speaking here. Listen to this here. It's in red. And it says, it's Matthew 24 and verse 6, and it says, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of war. And you heard him say that if they don't get their affairs together, they don't get this scrape between Australia, Taiwan, and China, and ultimately America, there's going to be Armageddon, Armageddon, Armageddon. So that's we hear it. We hear it. And it reads, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. No, because the Lord is going to show up in the end. The very man, or the very being, the very man, rather, that is speaking right now, he's going to show up at the end. Yeah, he's going to show up at the end. And believe that, and you don't believe, oh, the Lord ain't with none of that. Okay, well, let's go real quick to Exodus. Let's see what it is. I think it's 15, yes. Listen to this here. This is Exodus chapter 15 and verse 3, and it reads, the Lord Yahweh, because we see the word in all caps. So that's speaking about the Heavenly Father. The Lord Yahweh is a man of war. The Lord Yahweh is his name. Yeah, he with that. The Lord with that. That's why when you see those scriptures, the Lord of hosts. Host goes into armies. That's what that word means. He's the Lord. He's the masters of armies. All the armies of the earth belong to the Lord. Because all the earth belongs to the Lord. That goes without saying. That's fact. Let's back that scripture up real quick. I think it's in Luke. Is it in Luke? Yeah, I think it is in Luke. Let's go to Luke 12 and listen to this here. This is the Lord speaking again in red. Suppose ye that I come to give peace on earth. I tell you, nay, but rather division. And division. Lord is not coming to bring peace on earth. Huh? Because the Lord got to get some get back for what was done to him. And the people who are perpetrating the fraud are the ones that are orchestrating these damn wars. Run around trying to police folks. You heard what Biden say? We have an obligation. Yeah. And that's it. And that obligation that these so-called white folks can't keep their damn nose, can't keep their noses out of other folks' business. It's going to play to their detriment. You know, proud. To tell you, these some proud devils. It's going to play against them. In the end, let's get a nut from the Lord. Because he says this a lot of times. Listen to this here. Look. This is Matthew 10 and 34. Think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword. The Lord said it all over the place. You understand? To the Lord down with what's going to happen. Because if you're going to get peace on earth, then you have to have war so you can establish peace. America went around the world taunting and wrecking and destroying and whatnot and sent this false sense of peace by the way of what they call democracy. Democracy. It lasts about as long as a military man walking down the streets of that country. The moment they leave, that shit break down. Look at what happened in Afghanistan. Huh? The moment they left, broke down. Folks went right back to what they were doing. See what I'm saying? Went right back to what they were doing. Shows you that this man's democracy is nothing but a pulling the shade over your eyes. You know, freedoms. Get out of here with that, man. No damn freedoms. There's no such thing as no freedoms. Yeah. Most High say he gonna stir them up. Bring them to the battle. Matter of fact, let's go there real quick. Let's go to Isaiah 19 real quick. This is Isaiah 19, yeah. Check this out. It says, the burden of Egypt, behold, the Lord, Yahweh, rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. That swift cloud talking about that chariot. Yes, and he's talking about America. Because it won't be over until the Lord comes. We just read that in Matthew 24 and 6. That's the end. That's not the end, but that's the beginning of the end. But when the Lord moves in, that's the end. Verse 2, and it says, and I will set the Egyptian against the Egyptian, and they shall fight every one against his brother, and every one against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. And look at this. As that, you got the kingdom of Moab get ready to fight the kingdom of Esau. You got world leaders up here jousting back and forth, and it sounds as though the Australians are in a more submissive. When you listen to the whole interview, they sound to be more in a more subdued manner than the Chinese. The Chinese are very confident in what they accomplished and their position right now. But just like that general for the next general there for the Australian army, he said that the people of Australia are naive to believe that the U.S. military is infinite. So they seem to be, when you listen to the video, they seem to have a more not sure of themselves type of attitude. Let's go to Joel real quick. We're just gonna touch on. So we're just gonna touch on a few things. We're gonna get up out of here. That video went on long enough. No, this is Joel. Let's see. Listen to this here. It says, and we know this was dealing with Justin them, sending the people far off. The Lord has spoken of it. Real quick, this is Joel 3 and 9. It says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. Wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Let's see, beat their, and check this out, beat your plowshares into swords. China used to be an agricultural country at one point in time. They didn't gave that up. It was a sweatshop at one point in time. I mean, I'm not saying that they didn't give it up totally, but something has changed. They got the second largest army. And I would dare to say probably the number one army as far as men are concerned. You understand what I'm saying? You have to take this with a grain of salt where Esau get the statistics and whatnot. He gonna always play like he got the edge. But the point being, it says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. He asked that journalist asked that general, do Australia have to prepare itself for war? He said, yeah. Are they prepared? No. And they're in a state of frame of mind. They're really not sure of the backing of the U.S. because the U.S. everywhere. They got U.S. bases, military installations throughout all nations, damn near across planet Earth. They're stretched so thin, they like a damn rubber band. It's wrapped around goddamn 50 newspapers. It's gonna pop if you squeeze one more in there. One more newspaper, you're gonna bust the rubber band. That's about how the United States is right now. They stretch so thin. And then you got Biden as the head of state over here. He gotta have help in the morning. Remember where he put his coffee cup. You see how dementia's starting to ruin this man. Anyway, verse 10, it says, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Verse 10, it says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. And that is the sentiment that China is projecting when he's sitting up there. You listen to the China spokesman, how matter of fact he was speaking. And then when you listen to the Australians or the Aussies speak, they kind of spoke with a little kind of concern, not so sure. China's saying, I am strong. especially when that general had laid out the scenarios of how China can go about taking Taiwan. We can starve them out, and we can rush all the military bases here in the South China Sea in this part of the world as concerning America, and then ask China, ask China, the Taiwanese, the Taiwanians, whatever you call them, you want us to hit you too? Or he said they can use a combination of both. You know what I'm saying? And then the Australian spokesman or journalist was like, well, wouldn't that be a slippery slope? Because the United States, that would start a nuclear war. He's like, no. He said, the United States know goddamn well that they'll be peppered with nuclear weapons. Which ultimately, that's going to be the demise of this place anyway. They can't stop that. So, they're just prolonging the inevitable. It says, assemble yourselves and come all ye heathens, and gather yourselves together round about thither, cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Yep. It says, let the heathen be wakened, and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat. That's where the Lord is going to plead with all the nations, which He's going to judge them. You understand? That's long. Let's see. Yeah, the valley of Jehoshaphat. For there will I sit to judge. That is all the heathen round about. And you see these people are, Russia, China. You know what I'm saying? They all booting up. They're all about tired of America. They're dumping the U.S. currency. You know what I'm saying? They're going to their own, bagging it, their own monetary system, and they bagging it with the resources or the gold that they have amounted over the decades and whatnot, and they're cutting the United States out. And now the United States is going to have to do something because they have a failing economy, a failing housing ordeal, the taxes. Donald Trump, in every presidency, you see them arguing about how much taxes did you pay on the millions of dollars you got. They're defrauding the IRS, all of these scamming and these schemes and all these backroom deals are showing up on the world stage. You understand? That's what we're seeing. And what's not being said is that the United States is not owning up. Point blank period. They're not owning up. They're not owning up. And they're not going to own up, to be honest with you. But I think I had one more I wanted to. Yeah, let me check it out. Let's go to, because see, before you go to war, you got to be straight. You got to figure that you up on things. You know what I'm talking about? You got to at least check with, your roundabout, your generals, the men that you entrust, you enlisted to trust, that you don't go out here and fall flat on your face. This is a tactic that kings and generals and monarchs and have practiced throughout generations. You know what I'm saying? You just going out there, on your high horse and just think you're just gonna pull it in just cause you. It don't work like that. You got to really strategize. You know what I'm talking about? And it looks as though China and Russia, at that matter, have been strategizing. Have been really sitting back. You know what I'm saying? After they had been kicked in the ass in the Second World War, they had been really opening them books of war and studying. This is Luke. Listen to this here. This is the Lord speaking. It's such a wise man as the Lord Yahushua. He get all his wisdom from his father, Yahweh. Check this out. I'm gonna start at verse 29. It says, "Least be happy after he had." This is Luke 14 and 29. It says, "Least happily after he had laid the foundation, and is not able to finish it. All that behold it began to mock him." Now let me start verse 28. Slack it. Let me start a verse up. My point being in verse 31. It says, "For which you intending to build a tower, sit up down first," listen to this, "and count up the cost, whether he has sufficient to finish it." Now, China and Russia had to sit down amongst their generals, amongst their mighty men, amongst their nobles and whatnot. You understand? And say, look, man, we're gonna take this cat on. We sick of the U.S., man. They started that shit with Saddam and whacked him. You know, at least that's the way they played it out on the world stage. I mean, Saddam could be in a damn underground paradise, you know, for all we know. But we just gonna go with what they showed the world. They had a public hanging and whatnot. You understand? Then the way they did Muammar Gaddafi. See, but them cats didn't have the military might to fight these cats, you know what I'm saying? It's as though they didn't sit back and they count the cost, whether they were able to finish the plan that they set forth. This is what the Lord is basically saying, you know what I'm saying? Verse 29, it says, least happily, after he had laid the foundation and is not able to finish it, all that behold it began to mock him. And that's what happened to Saddam and to Muammar Gaddafi. You know, they want to switch up the monetary system and want to cut the United States out. You know, that OPEC dollar that they was using, that oil dollar, they wanted to cut them out of that. Because that was how they was holding the stronghold over these smaller nations. But lo and behold, China and Russia, they had more resources in the background, you dig what I'm saying? And they had the time to study, sit back and count the costs, you understand? Whereas Saddam and Muammar Gaddafi might have been a little more too hasty and got caught up. It's all prophecy though. Verse 30, it says, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. You understand? This the point right here, verse 30. Or what king going to make war against another king sitteth down first and consulted whether he be able with 10,000 to meet him that cometh against him with 20,000. Huh? You got to be ready. You understand? And you seen that spokesman for China. He sat there with all the continents of confidence in his speech, in his demeanor, you know, his matter of fact demeanor, how he answered, you know, straightforward, no stuttering. You understand? No games. Listen to me. Even listen to even the words that he used in a declarative sense. You know what I'm saying? Like he was making a declaration. So it seems as though they have sat down, just like the Lord say, or what king goeth to make war? Because they talking about, he said it out his own mouth. He said it's going to be Armageddon, Armageddon, Armageddon. He said it 3 times, which we know that to be understand. We ready. We ready. You make a move, you better be ready. Basically, that's what he was saying, you know. It says, or what king going to make war against another king sitteth down first and consulted whether he be able with 10,000 to meet him that cometh against him with 20,000, or else while the other is yet a great way off, he sitteth and abashed and desireth conditions of peace. So likewise, whosoever he be of you that forsake not all that he had, he cannot be my disciple. It's like I didn't even need to go into all of that because the point was verse 30. You understand? The point was verse 30, so slack you for that. But anyway, I wanted to touch on that because, you know, through the Spirit, I have been looking at this thing going back and forth with China and the United States, Russia and the United States. It seems like everybody's into it with the United States. And I want to touch on one other thing before I go, that they made a mention about those nuclear subs that Australia had. They purchased those from the United States and they cut the French out of the deal. So the United States is he down bad, or rather she's down bad with everybody. Anyway, prepare for World War III. And with that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. Double honors given to the apostles, elders of Great Millstone. Shalom.